Budget Committee Chairman Bernie Sanders is out with a new bill to raise taxes on big corporations. Now, this is not a surprise, but it's also welcome. Now, under the Tax Excessive CEO Pay Act, the corporate tax rate would increase by about 0.5% for companies reporting a CEO to median worker pay ratio of about 50 to 1, and grow to a rate of 5% for those companies reporting a ratio of 500 to 1 or higher, according to a summary of the proposal released by Sanders' office. The bill also requires the Treasury Department to issue regulations to prevent tax avoidance, including against companies that increase the use of contractors rather than employees. So one, of course, common criticism was, well, if you raise taxes on companies, they're just going to contract out. Nope. Not under this bill. Now, pay ratio data for privately held corporations would also be made public, just as publicly held corporations are required to make public under current law. So these would be significant changes. And of course, I think there would be positive changes. In 2018, the average CEO to median worker pay was about 278 to 1. And actually, it's gotten even worse from there. It's actually about 320 times now as of recently. Now, is that CEO working 320 times harder than you? I don't think so. I don't see how such a thing would even be possible. I mean, think about this, right? You got a construction worker who's busting his ass. And then you got a CEO that is sitting in the air-conditioned building taking meetings all day. Who's working harder? I don't think he's working 320 times harder. I'm sorry. But more disastrous numbers here. Now, CEO compensation itself has risen by about 1,167%. This is between the years of 1978 to 2019. That is not all that long. To rise by over 1,100%. Wow. Meanwhile, how did you do as a worker? Well, you did see your compensation rise by about 13.7%. Yeah, look at that. 1,167% versus 13.7. Who's doing better here? Who's doing better? Yeah. Now, there's more. According to the Economic Policy Institute, the reasons that they're getting paid more is not because they work harder. It's not because they're smarter or better at all at their job. No. The report notes that CEO compensation appears to reflect not greater productivity of executives, but the power of CEOs to extract concessions from the board. Consequently, if CEOs earn less or taxed more, there would be no adverse impact on the economy's output or on unemployment. So no negative change. And that's why I like this proposal. For one, it doesn't actually target CEO paychecks because there's a lot of executives who can get by that by taking a lot of their pay in stock options, right? That's not taxed by like normal income. You also have dividends, you have capital gains. So to get around that and bring employee pay back into line, just increase taxes on the company more unless they raise pay. It's a simple solution of incentives versus punishments. And I'm sure they'll try to find tricky ways to get around it as well. They always do. But look, it's pretty simple, though, how it works. You can either keep paying your CEO an exorbitant amount of money to not be any more productive at all or vital, and then pay a tax on top of it, or you can pay your workers more and therefore help the economy by having happy, productive workers who can afford to buy your products. I mean, it kind of makes sense. It's how it's supposed to work. Now, Sanders, on introducing this, said, quote, "At a time of massive income and wealth inequality, the American people are demanding that large, profitable corporations pay their fair share of taxes and treat their employees with the dignity and respect they deserve." That is what this legislation will begin to do. Obviously, beginning is one important thing because there's actually a lot of other stuff that needs to be done. We need labor rights in this country. Right now, we have a massively low, incredibly low labor participation force that's in unions, right? that participates in unionization. That is bad. Not good at all. Not good at all. And so, yes, that is definitely one way we could extract concessions is by unionizing more. And of course, unfortunately, you have companies that know this and push back incredibly hard against unions. Even talking about unions will get people fired. And so there does need to be protections. The PRO Act is one good piece of legislation that is currently making its way through Congress. That needs to pass. We need to start protecting labor. Now, as far as this is concerned, according to Sanders' office, the new legislation would bring the federal government around $150 billion in revenue over a decade if the current corporate pay patterns continue. They noted that in the bill that if it had been in effect last year, Walmart would have paid about $854.9 million more in taxes. Home Depot would have paid up to $550.8 million more in taxes. JP Morgan Chase would have paid $172.8 million more. Nike would have paid $147 million. McDonald's would have paid $69 million. Nice. American Airlines would have paid up to $22.6 million in taxes and on and on. So you have a lot of these really wealthy corporations, and getting them to pay their taxes would help reduce income inequality in this country. And getting them to pay workers more would also help. So now, how likely is this to get passed? There's a lot of work, but it's catching on. One person that's in favor of it is Elizabeth Warren. I know, snake, hiss, hiss, right? She seems to be coming back to her senses a little bit after becoming a total snake in the primary, so that's good to see. Corporate executives have padded their pockets with hefty paychecks and over-the-top compensation packages, she said, while American workers who help generate record corporate profits have hardly seen their wages budge. So she's signing on to support this. She said, we need to take dramatic steps to address wealth inequality in this country, and discouraging massive executive payouts is a good place to start. Good. Representative Barbara Lee also on board in favor. She's a co-sponsor of companion legislation in the House. She said on Wednesday that it is unjust and unacceptable for decades, billions of dollars have gone to those at the top, while workers' wages, especially for workers of color, have remained stagnant. As millions of families struggle to keep food on the table during a global pandemic and economic crisis, it's more important than ever that we close the CEO-worker pay gap, ensure that companies pay their workers the wages they deserve. I'm proud to partner with Senator Sanders to reintroduce the Tax Excessive CEO Pay Act to make ultra-wealthy CEOs pay their fair share. Absolutely. Now, again, has to go through the House, has to go through the Senate. That's going to be a problem with Mitch McConnell, the filibuster, and even some Democrats, of course. But look, Bernie Sanders needs to continue to hammer these bills home, to reintroduce them every time, and that's what he's been doing. It does show that he continues to keep up the fight. And here's the thing. With the coronavirus, I think a lot of things have begun to change as far as people being, open to government spending, especially when it comes to changing things in the workplace, giving aid to the American people, and of course, making the rich pay their fair share. There is a lot more, I think, appetite for the American people to do that, especially when they've seen companies like Amazon, while they're suffering, people are suffering without paychecks, and relying on, unemployment benefits and government stimulus checks. Amazon made $13 billion in profits. And so a lot of people are going to look at that because they have time and go, well, that's not right. We need to tax the rich and, reduce this gigantic level of income inequality. And so I hope we continue to see that and not get distracted by, for example, the right-wing culture wars that are currently going on Fox News. And keep our eye on the ball and making sure that people, have, get what they deserve from government, essentially, to make sure that everybody has a fair and equitable chance at being able to succeed, get fair pay, get fair benefits, and, be able to take care of their families. That's all we've ever really wanted to do. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.